The new trailer for Predator Badlands dropped not long after the first look at Predator Killer of Killers, and I think a new AvP crossover is now inevitable based on what we've seen from both. And the series is going in some really cool new directions. The Predator series is reaching new heights after decades of occasional new installments of varying quality, and my gut reaction is to think this is awesome. Usually I can tend to skew more cynical when it comes to something that has a small cult fan base becoming more successful and mainstream. It's done nothing but terrible, horrible, irreparable damage to all of my favorite comic book characters. But I think the Predator franchise for the time being is in good hands with Prey director Dan Trachtenberg. Not only has the trailer for Predator Badlands been exciting, if only for showcasing something new for this long-standing franchise, but Trachtenberg's recent comments in an interview with various movie press outlets has me convinced that something special is on the horizon. As good as Trachtenberg's Prey was, it was more or less a spiritual remake of the first movie and very by the numbers for the franchise, which he seems completely aware of. He stated that he made a way more traditional Predator film first, so that he could do something new with this one.
I think we're in a time when this kind of movie is what drives butts in seats. People are like, I want to have an experience that I've never had before. If you want the same old Predator experience, you can hit play on Predator or Prey, any of those Predator movies. I want to give people a brand new thing. Hopefully that will be enjoyed.
And you can tell he's a hardcore fan of the franchise because his big idea is to do what fans have been quietly clamoring for since the beginning. But the studio seemed reluctant to try because it's a more abstract idea that's maybe a harder sell in Hollywood circles. Alright, who's the lead in the film? A professional stunt actor wearing a complicated alien costume with a scary CGI monster head who can't speak a single line of human language. Oh yeah, that just screams marquee value. If you're a lame Hollywood executive stooge with no imagination, you're probably asking, but can't we just get The Rock to be in it so we can put his big face on the poster? Just to be safe and make the budget back? Predator Badlands is a departure from almost the entire Predator franchise by having the titular alien hunter serve as the film's underdog protagonist, instead of its nearly universal role as an unwavering villainous specter of death to be overcome by a human hero. My immediate association with that premise is the massively underappreciated 2004 video game Predator Concrete Jungle, which happens to be one of my absolute favorite stories told using the Predator character. Badlands features a young, fresh-faced Yautja hunter named Dek, trying to prove himself to his elders by slaying something big and rad that would make a sick-ass trophy for his cool shelf. He already apparently got a War of the Worlds alien from the looks of it, but I think this shelf is missing a large, popcorn bucket-shaped fan favorite that should have eye sockets but doesn't for some reason. But we'll get to that. Dek looks smaller and more human-like in the face than most Predators, and that can apparently be attributed to his youth. But I think it's just something we as an audience need so we can connect with him a little more on an emotional level. He doesn't have sunken-in, beady little eyes and a super intimidating expression. You can't root for Jungle Hunter, he looks too evil. Unless you're rooting for him to be evil in like a Freddy or Jason way. Dek isn't an evil-looking kid. He's just a little guy that needs to kill stuff to be accepted into his society. I was initially taken back by his more thin and tied-up predlocks because he's got a way more flattering hairline than 99% of his species. Well shit, if the tendrils can grow from up there, does that mean every other pred had a Hulk Hogan-style hair curtain? Trachtenberg went on to say that one of the most exciting things about this character being a younger and smaller Predator was the prospect of casting a stunt actor that has a lot more experience instead of relying on someone who just happens to be tall enough to fill out the immense costume.
At one of our castings, we had a number of stunt guys, and then Demetrius came up. The way he moved just had a great swashbuckler to it. He was just so cool. We set up a little physical obstacle course, and he did that. Then he did some dramatic stuff from the movie, and it was awesome. I was not prepared for it at all.
A lot of Predator actors tend to be first-time actors that fit the physical requirement, but haven't spent much time doing obstacle courses or fight choreography. Kevin Peter Hall's legendary performance is forever going to be a tough act to follow, but I have high hopes for Dek's actor, Demetrius Schuster Kaloa Matangi. Rather than putting a huge animatronic head on him to operate the mandibles, they're going for a motion capture approach similar to Andy Serkis's Caesar in Planet of the Apes. Though apparently that has its own set of challenges because of how inhuman the lower half of the face is.
If something in the look didn't quite hit what we need, we're really in this process where we're discovering how to animate a face. It's very different from Gollum or Planet of the Apes because those are one-to-one translations of a human face. The Yautja have got these mandibles and stuff. We just discovered the other day when Demetrius blinks, we might want to see the Predator blink. We might just want the eyebrow movement. Then we tried to make his smiles and his snarls work with the mandibles. It's all been very tricky, and thankfully we're really finding our way through it.
I understand the one clear shot we get of him in this trailer is a work in progress, but I'm really interested to see how they incorporate Demetrius's performance into the animations for the face going forward, and seeing how much you can pull off with such a unique-looking character. My assumption with the setting being clearly in the far future from the rest of the series is so that we don't immediately assume that Dek is a previous Predator during their youth in a prequel. Like, fan theories would immediately swirl that it could be that old guy that gave Mike Harrigan the flintlock pistol from Prey. They retconned that cool pirate comic already, so nothing is set in stone. But despite being set off-world on alien terrain, Terralian, the time period is thoroughly established in relation to Earth by, would you look at that, our shared connection to the other meanest from outer space. Elle Fanning plays Thea, a humanoid synthetic from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, as made clear by her eyes showing the corporate logo while rebooting, just like Andy from Romulus or Walter from Covenant. Is the movie Companion canon to the Alien vs. Predator universe? Actually, there's nothing to dispute that currently, so possibly. My assumption is that Thea will be Dek's companion on this journey, to give the audience a definitively human-looking character to latch onto in a world full of monsters, while also still having no human characters in the movie, technically. It's a brilliant compromise, because her being an android sets her apart just enough from the audience that we can't pretend she's the real main character. In the Alien franchise, androids have been supporting roles or antagonists or sometimes both at the same time. It makes sense for Dek to keep her as an ally given that she's a form of technology and he could see her more as a tool or equipment than as one of those awful, ugly humans that we use for blood sport. This is kind of a weird, funny, full circle moment because her big sister Dakota Fanning played a character in Neil Blomkamp's Zygote that was a synthetic helper in a dystopian sci-fi setting run by a nefarious corporation. Except the twist there was that she wasn't a robot, but you know what I mean. Borrowing from their sister franchise to fill gaps in this one's potentially difficult to execute premise is a really smart idea. But I also have faith that even without her, Trachtenberg knows just what to do with the Predator characters. Danny Boy also said that he didn't want to obsess too much about Predator society and culture. They'd explore it enough to give context for Dek and his adventure, but he's made it clear he's not interested in showing Yautja politics and council meetings.
I think lots of times when people do more in a franchise, there's a tendency to go in the Senate trade committees. I thought we should have a sliver of that, but not let the movie be that. When people hear the premise, they may think this is all about the inner workings of the Yautja culture. That's not what we want to do.
There's a restrained approach that doesn't strip away the mystery of them and turn them into a Star Trek species where we know every facet of their inner workings and history. However, fans of speaking Klingon will get something out of it too. Maybe you don't like the idea of Alien and Predator crossing over if you're a lame bitch like my friend David over there. The biggest new advancement instead will be just giving the species an actual language. They invented an entire new language for the Predator actors to speak that has consistent rules and can actually be translated.
We did it in the way that The Lord of the Rings does Elvish or Game of Thrones does Dothraki. Except with those, there's more of a precedent. As we discovered with that language expert, the Yautja language in the other Predator movies is complete nonsense. There's no sense to it. People from the internet have tried to make sense of it, but none of it was made with intention. So we decided to make it with intentions. We completely developed the language. Everything they're speaking is actual rules and structure, and all that was written is verbal. Early on, we just did explorations with concept art of what we could do.
But even then, the focus will be on visuals over dialogue, and this will be a more quiet film, which is harder to pull off, but can be a lot of fun too. I actually dig movies with minimal or no dialogue, especially in the horror or action genre. They don't have massive mainstream appeal, but there are plenty of recent examples of sparse or absent dialogue, like No One Will Save You, Mad God, Under the Skin, Sisu, Blue Ruin, and Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal. Primal is sick! So while someone more, let's say, bottom line oriented might fear that audiences would be alienated by less dialogue, I think for Predator it can work. Hell, even long stretches of Prey don't have much talking, but are told in such a riveting way that I think The Berg can pull it off. I really think they're going to take inspiration from the other hypest aspect of Concrete Jungle as well, Nowhere in that entire game do they make it clear that this is going to happen. It's labeled only as a Predator game from the very beginning. Not a hint of this in the marketing, but during the last few chapters of the game, they drop this on you. Boom! It's a secret AvP thing! Given comments from Fede Alvarez from August of last year about how he'd shadow drop the next AvP crossover, I think this is that. They're doing it over here. But they're maybe not being as subtle about it as Concrete Jungle was. Overall, I'm incredibly optimistic about Badlands because it's swinging for the fences and trying something new with an established IP instead of just pathetically reliving glory days from previous entries like a soulless greatest hits montage disguised as a movie. If you watch all the aliens in chronological order, Andy the android makes a forced cringy callback to a line that hasn't been said yet for another 37 more years. And as for the more safe and secure route for the Predator franchise, the tried and true method is to just take another action movie subgenre in any number of time periods and slot a Predator into it to make it more interesting. Here's a South American war movie, but with a Predator. Here's a cops and robbers gang war movie in LA, but with a Predator. We even did natives versus colonizers, but a Predator is there. Honestly, you could just drop one into any armed conflict in human history in any year and it's automatically more entertaining. So we have the first ever animated anthology that's going to utilize that formula in Killer of Killers. Animated in an undoubtedly Spider-Verse and Arcane-inspired style, it'll include multiple stories like Viking Predator, Samurai vs. Predator, and Predator in a World War I aerial dogfight. I can see the toys now! I'm just excited that an R-rated animated film with this art style is now a viable thing that can actually get produced in the United States. The more stuff like this, the better. Executives can only seem to understand ideas in the form of elevator pitches, like pre-existing thing you've heard of, mixed with other pre-existing thing you've heard of. So having this movie be a known thing that you can refer to in the future when pitching ideas is a definite upside. Oh yeah, it's a Judge Dredd animated film, but it'll be like Killer of Killers. And then Johnny Executive will greenlight it and then kill it the following day, but at least you got that far instead of him looking at you like you're insane because you said cartoon with blood. I'm optimistic about the future installments of the Predator franchise and enjoying that they're trying new things with an established old IP, making a pivot to animation and trying a complete role reversal in their new live-action one are both exciting new directions. It's just sad that their companion franchise isn't doing as well at the moment. Alien Romulus rubbed me the wrong way by being way too crammed with cringy fan service, to the point of being really forced, frustrating and distracting, and even ghoulish. And then of course it played around with the rules of the alien's life cycle a little too much for my taste just so they could make it fit their sloppily written story. Why the fuck did that alien go from a facehugger, embryo implantation, and chest burster to a full-grown adult in like 10 minutes in real time? The entirety of Alien 3 happened in the time it takes to birth one. The original movie made it feel at least like several hours were passing before Kane popped. I don't know, I wanted to like it, but it was the Force Awakens of this franchise. I'm a lot more interested in Noah Hawley's Alien Earth TV series doing something worthwhile, and all the promotional material for that so far has been really ominous and vague, which creates way more hype for me. I like to be surprised, and go into it with only enough information to be interested without being spoiled. I watched Lee Winnell's Wolfman recently and felt like I knew the entire movie from just watching the trailer, and sure enough, it ended exactly how I thought it would, beat for beat. I could actually talk at length about how much that one disappointed me, but this is supposed to be a focused Gutter Space. I've seen fan speculation that given its timeline placement, that Alien Earth might be the secret conclusion to the cliffhanger left by Alien Covenant. Based on Romulus's very direct ties to Prometheus, it seems that Fox is at least somewhat committed to keeping those two movies in canon, even if they weren't as well received as they were hoping for. I just know that Noah Hawley's work on Legion was some of the best television I've ever seen, and I hope he keeps it up with his trippy, unconventional narrative style instead of playing Alien Earth more safe, whether or not Michael Fassbender robots show up or not. Romulus may have felt more like a fan project in a bad way, but it was successful enough that at least the series has more gas in the tank to keep going for a little while longer, and maybe secure more interesting projects for the future, like Alien Earth. Sometimes maybe you have to pander to your audience a little bit to keep the lights on and fund more creative endeavors. Hey, you kids like Spider-Man video game reviews?